Content over everything. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening all. Peace everyone. I'm not here today, I'm frightfully cold. I'm not here today essentially to reiterate what I've been saying for the last 2 weeks. What I will do in brief is say I stand by most of what I've said in the last 2 videos. Wherever I have made mistakes, it will be because this is unscripted. It's basically ad hoc. So I'm not speaking to the camera with a bunch of notes in front of me. I don't have a teleprompter. So of a necessity, there will be mistakes to be corrected. What I am saying, however, is let me preface comments by saying I am not a Muslim cleric. I do not stand here as a cleric. Do not let my clothing mislead you. There is no such thing as Muslim clothes. Muslim clothes conform to the criteria of not being too tightly fitting, too body fitting. That's all. This is Berber from Morocco. I'm not a Muslim cleric. I want to make that clear. What I also want to make clear is I do not appear on this platform to discuss religion in terms of its theological authenticity. I am not here to discuss that. What I am here to discuss is its fallout on people of African origin, be they in the continent or in the diaspora. This is what I mean to speak about. Having traveled most of the Afrosphere, the black world, as it were, I have noticed that whenever Europeans live amongst us, they live in the best parts of Africa and the Caribbean. When we live in Europe or America, we invariably are associated with the ghetto. There's a pattern there. And the pattern seems to redound to anti-blackness. And anti-blackness doesn't seem to be restricted to the capitalist West. Some of the poorest countries I have traveled to, where the people are non-African, seem to display traits of anti-blackness. This puzzles me. It makes me wonder whether they have learned it from the media. You must remember the movies Boys in the Hood and Juice. The guys I'm speaking to here might be too young to remember these movies, but these were the kind of movies that would go about the world. So perhaps the first time the Chinese, emergent China, not the old China, but emergent capitalist China, would see black people, would be in a movie like Juice or Boys in the Hood. Perhaps the same of Japan. So to some extent, what they know about us as black people is what they see of us from these movies. What they hear about us are from certain kinds of rap music, which may or may not portray us in the most flattering light. People be calling women the B word, people using the N word, and that sort of thing. And we know that black people, the musicians or the rappers, do not produce them, apart from Jay-Z. The majority do not produce their music, and I've learned quite recently, the majority don't write their own lyrics. So that's another discussion to be had. So how does this factor into my 2 earlier discussions? Well, I don't want to sound as though I said so, but a couple days ago, a colonel in Iran was killed by a drone, by an American drone. And of course, it's all over the news. I don't even need to recap what's happened. What worries me, what saddens me, is the lukewarm response from the majority of the Muslim world, the 80% of the Muslim world to which I belong, which we loosely call Sunni. Where the response is not lukewarm, it's downright joyous. It's actually jubilant. And of course, the response is Qasim Soleimani has killed a large number of Sunnis in Iraq. And there is truth to that. As there is truth to any leader adopting a position, killing people who are opposed to him. I don't want to play top trumps, here's the word again, trumps, but there are many instances of Shia being killed by Sunni in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in many parts of the world, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, that famous Sheikh Nimr in Saudi Arabia, who was a Shia, and he was murdered. And so look, there's tit for tat on both sides. And I said in a video last week, I think the time has come for us to realize that if we don't sit down to a debate about the greater enemy, each group will get picked off one by one. For example, I'm old enough to remember, and I'm reiterating, just for the purposes of to cite a moral by using history. I'm old enough to remember the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s, when the fear of the Ayatollah Khomeini was such, the West incited the Iraqis under Saddam Hussein to fight with the people of Shalom, my brother. To fight, yes, ma'am. To fight with the people. To fight with the Iranians. I don't want to get too sidetracked. You see, when I start greeting, I start losing my thread. So, yes. So, no, let me build this up. Otherwise, this goes all over the place, and people in the thread say this man is jumping all over the place because I'm not giving y'all gonna let me get on focus, man. I'm built my argument. You see, and when it happens, I start raising my voice, and then I get hot. And then people say, the brother is shouting again.
No,
I'm trying to shout him down because he's making too much noise in my ear.
No, you don't want a high blood pressure.
I'm just hearing that dude. That dude's in my ear. That dude is like an earworm because he's on my same subject. Now, listen to this. I'm just giving him a microphone. So, what I fear is the West watch these two people, Sunni and Shia, fight for 8 years, destroyed both economies, and then invaded Iraq twice, in the year 2001 and then 2003. They invaded Iraq, you know, the Gulf Wars. George Bush father, George Bush Jr. Right, for senior. Yeah. Now, as if we learned nothing from that, Gaddafi, Libya, was invaded. Gaddafi had come in from the cold. Tony Blair gave him what you call a Judas kiss in his tent in Libya. They made up. The head of the Libyan state, Muammar Gaddafi, vowed to stop his nuclear weapons development and to also assist with the war against terror. And the West actually sent a lot of people to Libya in what is called extraordinary rendition. And many of them were actually tortured. This did happen in Libya. For all his good help and the money he lent to Berlusconi and Nicolas Sarkozy, you see what the West did to Libya. Similarly, Qasem Soleimani helped the Americans to get rid of IS in Raqqa. And his reward for this was to get killed. So what you're looking at is a country like Iran, which is not known for suicide bombing. Iranians are not known. You hardly, I don't know if you can recount one instance of Iranians involved in suicide bombing. I don't think you can. But now, if it happens, 5 years down the line, people will speak about the Iranians having indulged in suicide bombing as if they always have done so. No one will connect it to the fact that George Bush just killed one of their leaders, a high-ranking leader, which everyone is now saying this is against all protocol. There's no way that this can be justified. Now, if we want to say, look, we are Sunni, and these are Shia, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend, we will soon find that is going to backfire. That is going to backfire dreadfully, because when they finish with Iran, they're going to come back for us. They're going to come back for us. And once you divide people, divide and rule, just like in the colonial period, it's going to come back again. So as far as I am concerned, if we learn nothing as Muslims, as the world community of Muslims, if we learn nothing from this incident, it is because We have allowed ourselves to be unmindful of very recent history that started in the 1980s. And how do as Africans, how do we look at these events taking place in the Middle East? First, we have Turkey interfering in Libya. And Haftar on one side saying that these are foreigners interfering in Libya. We have that situation. We have a lot of unrest involving, as they say, franchises of IS in Mali, in Niger. A whole bunch of soldiers were killed in Niger about 2 weeks ago. In Chad, we have it going on in Chad. We have it today. A busload of children were blown up in Burkina Faso, the town of, I think it's called the town of Moeni. These are all Sahelian countries, former colonies of France. And there were some people who were saying, the more they look into Boko Haram, now we've gone to Nigeria, they said that there is some evidence of French involvement in Boko Haram. But I don't believe French involvement is responsible for all of these movements. And I don't believe the French were responsible for the beginning of Boko Haram. I believe the French might be instrumental in encouraging what is already there. But on top of that, you pointed out last week, not only do we have the situation now, let's step over to East Africa, not only the school, the truck explosion that we discussed last week, we're talking also about what happened in Lamu County in Kenya. This was the army barracks was attacked. And then you also mentioned in the Congo,
Nigeria.
Central Africa. No, we talked about the Congo, Central Africa, and Uganda. So now what you have is a filtering down of franchises, as they call themselves, of IS throughout parts of Africa where they believe they have soft targets. The African, let's say the American bases in Africa tend to be poorly defended and are considered to be soft targets. And now we're having that situation. What do we suspect? Do we suspect now George Bush is going to say, well, I had to kill Qasem Soleimani to protect Iranians from themselves. So now I have to do the same. You see, that's why I like people to help me. Whom did I say?
You said George Bush.
SubhanAllah.
They're going to try roast us in the comment.
I went back too far in time. I didn't come back. I went back to 1920, not 2020. Right?
I don't want to say on the recording.
No, it's good. When I make those kind of, because sometimes I'm trying to think ahead while I'm talking about this thing. And what you have is a situation where in Africa, he might invite himself to save Libyans from themselves, to save Chadians from themselves, to save Somalis from themselves, and so like what he did in Iran. Now, while we are going to praise, I assume he's praising what he did to Qasem Soleimani, when it starts happening to us, people are going to stop praising it. And I am saying we need to stand up for justice and speak out against injustice wherever we find it. And sure, Donald Trump, looking at the injustices in Taiwan, looking at the injustices in Hong Kong, looking at the injustices in Xinjiang province, looking at the injustices in Tibet, there's no way he's going to assassinate a top-ranking military commander of China, of the People's Republic of China. There is no way he's going to do that. So let us be fair. Let me land. So let us be fair. Let us be fair. I doubt it very much that he's going to do the same thing in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
You've got a good point. Very quickly,
I don't take interruptions, so it's too early to be interrupted.
Trump said, what was the reasoning Trump gave for the assassination?
He's a bad man.
For the killing and possible further killing of American,
he is planning,
He called
it preemptive strike.
Yeah, so therefore he only did it because of his brethren, the Americans, solely.
No, but my point is,
so therefore he's not going to help the Hong Kong.
My point, what is dangerous about this is, if we are, I think you're blocking the camera a bit. My point is, if we start anticipating preemptive strikes, I can produce any number of bits of information and say, the reason I killed him is because I knew he was planning to come and break into my house.
Due process.
Exactly. Once you start doing that, yeah. And that is one of the, to me, what I find, like I said, duplicitous about this is the extent to which these guys have no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Again, they did it to Gaddafi. And now they did it to Qasem Soleimani. Now, we may not like Gaddafi's Islam, so we don't care what happened to Gaddafi. We don't like Qasem's Islam, so we don't care what happened. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. When it comes and he starts doing it to us, we're going to suddenly care. But it will be too late. We will have no support if we don't give support to those who are unjustly.
Why should we support these people's problems? Why should we support?
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No, Uncle, you've been talking.
Wait a minute. Wait a
I
minute.
disagree with you, Uncle.
Wait a minute.
I don't usually do this.
Wait a minute.
You've asked us a question as
Say
African.
one question.
No, I can't answer two questions. I can
No,
answer
go
one.
ahead,
No,
Abdi.
wait
No, go
a
ahead.
minute. You want me to answer this?
No.
You want me to answer this?
You've been talking all day.
All day? I've been talking all day?
There's a couple
Find out how long I've been talking all day?
Let me ask my
Let's
question.
ask a couple of points. You know I like you, Uncle. You know, you're
Yeah,
old,
but don't mischaracterize me. Don't mischaracterize me.
Uncle, there's a point where I don't like what you're
You're
saying.
trying to mischaracterize me. I've been talking here all day.
As Africans, yeah.
Sorry, Uncle. Yeah, I
in
know
the-
that's
It's
sweet.
time to get hot now. Time to take this on.
As Africans, in the 60s,
Yes.
we got swept on this whole communism, capitalism,
Yeah.
where Russia pretty much split Africa into communist
Yeah.
or capitalist,
Yeah.
the Americans, yeah?
Yeah.
Even World War II, we still got dragged into World War II.
Stay around, stick around.
Should we be dragged into a war between Iran and the Saudis?
Quick answer. No, wait a minute. You see, you're both asking me questions.
It's the same sort
Now
of
you ask the
thing,
question, but you're going to interrupt now. Well, let me answer the damn question for once.
All right, Uncle.
Short answer is no. You didn't understand what I meant by support. Not him. You didn't understand what I meant by support. Last week,
tired of Arab,
my dear
proxy
brother,
wars. I'm tired of Arab
you
proxy
see,
wars.
you see,
What it is, Uncle. You've asked us an African question.
no
And
man,
ask
you're
me an
not
African
listening.
way.
You're mischaracterizing
Why,
me.
Uncle, I'm just saying, stop
Yeah,
caring about Arab
Khalid,
problems.
you're
Fuck you,
mischaracterizing. No, let's not
Uncle,
swear. Let's not swear. Let's not swear.
So forget their problems.
Not
How about
let.
that?
Wait a minute. Listen to this. Yeah, we
I'm tired of time.
last
I'm tired
week.
for Arabs, man.
I don't know if you saw my video last week.
I didn't say it.
Well, you see, he saw it.
I saw it.
You must have seen it.
I was in it.
And no, but earlier when you were over there, you didn't hear.
yeah,
So
I
maybe
was.
you didn't look. I
Yeah,
hope you
I
looked
saw
at
it,
it.
I saw
Let me
it.
finish speaking for a second, guys. We're doing too much interruption.
No.
Now listen, you saw my video last week, and I spoke about Palestine. What did I say? What did I say about moral support?
Yeah.
But not military support.
No, but it's getting too
No,
much
wait a
now,
minute.
Uncle,
You
every minute,
didn't
like,
listen to me,
this,
man.
This type
I
of
can
stuff,
tell.
they distract
is
African
when-
problems.
when
That's
you
what it
didn't
is.
listen to me.
That's
Red
what it is.
carpet.
Because these
Yeah,
man, I'm not
Khalid.
going to say their problems.
Their
Why do their
first,
problems
and
all
Yeah,
African
different?
stuff on the back bench.
Brother Khalid, if you
I'm
listen,
I'm full stop.
if you
I'm sick and tired
listen
of
to
trying
what I said,
Forget
you
Arab
wouldn't be.
problems, man.
Brother Khalid, if you
Forget all
listen
of
to
this.
my video last
All
week,
Arab problems are Muslim problems, Uncle.
Brother
That's
Khalid.
another thing.
Brother Khalid,
That's
young,
another
young
thing. These
brother,
man, nah, it's not a young brother.
young
thing.
brother,
Oh, a big
listen
man.
to the video.
There's a danger.
No, you didn't listen. Wait a minute. I'm trying to. I can't do this, you know. I can't be putting out small fires.
Okay, go on.
If you listen to my video, what I said last week, and I made my point abundantly clear. I said, look, there are problems in the world. We Africans have to fix ours. If you're weak, you can't help somebody
have no
who's stronger than you.
Yes.
Can't have
No,
no
I said last week, and I must have spent about 5 to 10 minutes on this, that Palestine has my moral support. But until I see young Saudi Arabians going to fight the Zionist state of Israel, they can only have my moral support. Listen to me again, because you didn't hear the video. So I'm repeating it for the sake of those who misheard me or didn't hear it. I said, all these people will have my moral support. But until I see military support on the ground, Saudis, fat cat Saudis, bloated capitalist Kuwaitis, rich Qataris going to die,
Yes.
die for Israel, for Palestine,
For their fellow
fighting
Arabs,
the
for their fellow
Zionist
Arabs.
state
Come on.
of Israel. Palestine will have my moral support. That was what I said. So if I stand here telling you that the world ummah, which I believe is a work in progress, and you turned up. If I say to you that we need,
Eesa got hit between me and Uncle today.
we need to understand the great game.
You're the best guy to
All right,
say.
cool. You're right. You came early today, mashallah. I think Dowd wants to talk. We'll get Dowd in a minute. Now, I'm going to wrap this up by saying I am talking about moral support. I, as a Pan-Africanist, would be crazy if I would say to my people, go and fight in wars for people who are stronger than you, and you are in no position to even fix up your own country.
They don't even
So,
fight
for
you,
example,
Uncle, as well.
let me give you an example.
They don't
I
fight
spoke
you.
to a sheikh, Sheikh Salah Jane. That was back in about 1988. He was the first black da'i in this country. He was from Sierra Leone. The first black da'i. Rabita sent him. And I used to go to his house. And he was one of our imams in Brixton Mosque. And he studied in Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Salah Jane. No, he was not a Murabitun. He was not a Murabitun. He was one of the imams of the mosque. So was Sheikh Bouadi, and so was Sheikh Saaduddin Daniju. They were three, and none of them is a Murabit. So put that to bed first of all. Put that to bed. Sheikh Bouadi, I know him not only from this country, I know Sheikh Bouadi from Trinidad when he arrived. The first place he was posted by either Darul Ifta or Rabita was Trinidad. And I knew him, he was a young man, very, very young dude. And I known Sheikh Bouadi, 13 years he lived in Trinidad. When the Muslim coup took place in Trinidad, he then left, came to London, joined us at Brixton Mosque. Sheikh Salah, I'm talking to Sheikh Salah now. Sheikh Salah told me about the time when Arabs joined Saddam Hussein to fight Ayatollah Khomeini. Arab. They didn't join him because they were religious, because Saddam was not a religious Muslim. Saddam only put La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah on his flag after the first Gulf War. It was not on the flag. The flag just had the colors. After the first Gulf War, when he wanted to garner support, he put some Arabic writing across his flag. No, but wait a minute. The point I'm trying to make is this. You see, sidetracking, man. Let me make my point, man.
There's a reason for that.
We're not sidetracking you, Uncle. We're not
Let me land. I'm trying to make a point, right? I think y'all in a little bit. The cold is getting to you guys. Y'all tetchy today.
We're just tired
y'all
of,
a little bit tetchy.
Us Africans are tired of crying for our problems.
What I'm trying to say is
And
this.
you keep
No,
deflecting that.
today I'm going to devote a few minutes, Kilmiten, my best, of 2 minutes to this subject. And what I'm trying to say, Sheikh Salah are the people I want to meet here. Sheikh Salah said to me that Arabs joined Saddam Hussein to fight Ayatollah Khomeini. He said some of those Arabs were Sudanese. And he said they were racially maltreated till they actually left here. Some of those people. So I know about this. What you're trying to tell me about black people shouldn't be joining other people's war. I have known about this all along. Sheikh Salah, Allah yarhamu, told me about this.
Let me just say about an incident that happened
Since the
2 weeks ago,
1998.
yeah, where what's happened is, yeah, some young Somali kids, anyways, yeah, that finished high school, they recruited them, and then what they've done is they've sent them to Qatar to become basically military, anyways, as training, and
And that's what they're doing.
basically it was under the guise of disguise of you'll be trained well or whatever they got these
They're
facilities
training
or
you, giving you
whatever.
$2,000 US.
They
Poor
flew
African
them there,
kids.
took away their phones, basically took away their clothing, and then what they've done is that they've come back in body bags after 2 months.
2 months. They come
And
all
then
in body bags.
a lot of them got poisoned, a lot of them got killed, they got abused while they was there as soldiers.
You need to listen to my last video. Put him on to the last video, because I talked about this at length.
Uncle, you're deflecting certain questions today.
Oh,
I
no,
didn't like it, Uncle.
I think you're
I'm
feeling
not
cold.
It's not,
I think you're
Thank
feeling
you.
cold.
Thank you.
What's
I
your
think-
question, Khalid?
I'm saying,
Because I
why?
answered it.
No, it's like the brother said, yeah. My brother said over here, yeah. We had a recent where Qatar and certain Khalid countries
Right.
pretend that they want to help you,
Yeah.
tell you, yo, come join our armies, send your children in body bags. Like you're saying, Uncle, I think it's time for us, even as African Muslims, stop crying about these people's problems, because, they, like you said, you're waiting for when Saudi Arabians, Qataris, or whatever, fight for Palestine, right?
Mm-hmm.
They ain't been doing that for 70 years.
I know
so
this.
why should we care now?
I know
We've
this.
got our own problems.
What I'm speaking.
None of them
I'm speaking
right now.
rhetorically. It's called speaking. I'm speaking to
The young
you
generation are tired of this,
rhetorically.
man. I'm
I
saying
know
we're tired of
this.
this.
I know they're not intended to do it.
Sorry
Good.
again.
Listen.
I keep swearing again.
All right.
Sorry, questions are running high. Sorry.
Y'all feeling cold. That's what it is.
No, look, I think there's a
You
difference
guys,
between
y'all-
fighting for Aqsa and fighting for the Philistine. I think there's a
sorry.
difference.
Listen.
Fighting for the Haramain and fighting for the Arab.
Brother Dawood, come in here. Come in here. I got to run off. Listen, let me get Dawood and Eesa. I have got to rush off to attend to something. I will be right back. You wanted to have a discussion?
Oh yeah. So I read up on it.
Yes, you guys. So I want to tee it up. No more swearing.
No,
I want to tee it up.
Easa's about to big up Salafism.
You can pick up.
Eesa's golden.
He's about to get bigged up from...
No, Uncle. I'm sorry.
I don't know if
You understand where I'm coming from,
it's
Eesa.
very
time out.
nuanced. It's a very nuanced conversation. It's a very,
All right.
very
So
nuanced conversation.
I tried to tee it up, but then you were busy over there. And Eesa just came. But what I wanted to talk about, take it from the position of what happened recently with Qasim Soleimani.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at how the wider Muslim world doesn't see us the way we see ourselves. Now they know there are differences between
In the
us.
wider non-Muslim world.
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah. I'm glad you're doing that because sometimes this is too hard up. I need to start making notes. And what's happening is the diviser pour régner.
Oui.
The policy,
Diviser
the
pour régner,
diviser pour régner.
Yeah.
That
Divide to
policy is up in place in the world. I've seen it with Iraq and Iran since 1980s,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing it happening now. Finish with Iraq, now let's go do Iran. Boom, 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 pick these people off. Now what I am saying is, some of that blowback is coming to Africa.
Yeah.
We got situation we never expected in the Congo.
Yeah.
Forget about Lamu today. Lamu,
Eastern part of
Congo, parts of Kar,
That was last week.
Uganda. Right. This morning, a busload of kids were killed in Burkina Faso. I think the town is called Mweni. Right. It's part of the spillover in the Sahel from Mali, Chad, and Niger. There's a whole lot of instability, and Muslims or so-called Muslims are supposed to be at the heart of this. Now, my fear is if Mr. Trump can decide, well, look, he is justified in taking out people with impunity. We're living in a world of impunity. That's something that needs to be noted. That's why he likes people like Putin and even Duterte. Even though we may like them, there are people who practice impunity. They can do what they want because they're bad. Right? This is the world in which we are today. I never thought that in 2020 we would be going back to 1920. We in the roaring 20s. These are the warring 20s. All of a sudden, we're in a worse state than we were 100 years ago. And what I fear is, and I'm coming to my point, but they want to have that discussion. See, like I said before, I don't go deeply into articles of faith. I look at cultural imperialism, how religion is, whether we know it or not, and despite the best intentions of the best of us, how religion has political ramifications that can draw us into people's geopolitical spheres of influence. That's what I want to look at, and why Africa, as a people who are despised throughout the world, where anti-blackness is common in feminism, socialism, among Muslims, in every ism you find, there's anti-blackness. How do we respond to this?
So,
Brother Khalid already teed it up by saying he would not even give moral support.
No, don't get it twisted.
That's what you said.
No, Uncle.
That's what. Don't run now. Don't run now. I'll get hot with you. I'll get hot with you because I said to you, I will get hot with you. No. When you're on the back foot, you start there. You're allying me. You start. Alaikum salam. You're Muhammad allying me. You're allying me. You're rope-a-doping me. I said. What is it? No. Okay. No. What I said is this. What I said was this.
Okay,
I said, listen to what I said. I said, and you were witness everything. I said, no.
I'm on COE. He doesn't edit as well.
No, good. Don't edit.
Okay.
Don't have no filter. Have no filter.
You don't edit
These people.
But what is it that you said? I don't understand.
What I said was, as a Muslim, we have to be concerned with the geopolitical happenings, events unfolding in the Muslim world.
Yes.
And I say, as Muslims, whilst I do not believe there's an actual ummah, there's an aspirational ummah.
Yes.
There's an ummah we should strive for. However, given the nature of anti-blackness, I am not going to die for Palestinians. Before a Saudi, a Qatari, okay, you were here last week, you heard my video, and partly you didn't hear, so I had to repeat it. But what brother Khalid, I said, brother Khalid, I said, bro, wait a minute, no, man. I said, brother Khalid, I will give moral support. What did I put my hand? Did I not say this?
Yeah.
Or what did you say after that?
I'm saying I'm tired of this.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
tired. That's what happened in Somalia right now.
But
I don't see
give-
none of that. No, it's not even that. I'm just saying, like you're saying, Arab problems are not all Islamic.
Okay, what's he saying?
And that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. And that's
the
what we
issues
Muslims
is going
do.
on.
And that's what the Muslims
The
do.
Cold War's
I'm with
going
you,
on
I'm
right
with you.
now within the Arab world.
I'm with you.
Africans have become a pawn.
I'm with you. No,
That's
no.
what's happened.
Huh?
My country's
Yeah.
been torn apart
Yes.
due to the Arab Cold War that's going on.
Good.
Between
Yeah.
the Saudis, the
Qatar.
Iranians,
Yep.
the Qataris, the Turks, and Emiratis.
Yep.
Yes.
So what's happening is they're trying to buy the politicians in the north and
Where
the
you
south
from?
and
Is that
so
on a
on.
is that on a
Somalia.
political level, or is
Anyways,
that on the
yeah.
ground, I think?
No, I'm
with
saying
all
all
that.
over, all over.
So I agree, we got to look out for ourselves.
They're destabilizing the country
Is it the Qatari?
to tear the country apart. To you got to support Qatar or you got to support the Saudis.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So either side you lose. The current government had decided not to take a side.
Well, that's what-
And they've been punished.
Wait a minute, but
They've been punished.
I'm
for not
letting
taking
him
a side.
explain. He just
That's
explained it
what's
himself. All right, he's explained it. Now, what I'm saying to you is this. You and this brother Eesa are going to step up because some people, they're going to go. I got to go check them out.
Sure.
So your discussion, what I want us to look at is how we can remain good Muslims without being drawn into other people's fight. Jamaicans say, not Jamaicans, just I want you dog that business in a pussy fight. Jamaicans say, dog that business in a pussy fight, right? You should understand. You mix with another young man.
I just got that.
Dogs have no business with cat fights.
Yes.
You see? And I would like us to be able to tread away through being good Muslims and being good Africans and not being sucked into being foot soldiers in other people's wars. I'm gonna leave the microphone to you and I'll come back after. I'm gonna take care of something. No, it's him and his brother. You wanna moderate this, brother Khalid?
You wanna come back, Sheikh?
Yeah, I'm coming. No, Sabahtum, I'm just...
I think Sheikh Danjuma basically is 2 steps ahead of what he wants to do with this conversation. I have actually, there's like, what else is telling you, there's loads of papers. One paper I looked at, well there's 3 papers I looked at, but one paper I looked at proper was by a West African academic by the name of Abdullahi. He's a West African Abdullahi. What was his surname? I forgot. Anyway, the paper is about the Salafi revolution in West Africa, right? And I'm paraphrasing the title of the paper. And what I found interesting, because I had preconceived notions, because I had looked into this previously, but now I've looked at it very in detail, and it's a very, very, very nuanced conversation. What Sheikh Danjuma is saying is there's some truth to it, but it's not the entire picture.
Right.
It's not the entire picture.
So what I wanted to do, because I know Sheikh Danjuma's coming from one angle and I'm coming from another. So my point is to say, I understand what Sheikh Danjuma says in terms of like a geopolitical ramification.
Yeah.
What I don't agree with though is the merging, of the actual Salafi creed itself as a theoretical thing, right? And then linking it to how Saudi Arabia's done whatever they've done with the religion, or how it's been exported out to the African countries or worldwide. The geopolitical ramifications are come about for me as because of the ignorance of the people in actually applying the theory that they're trying to apply. Not necessarily because this concept that Salafi only came about 200 years ago for the benefit of the rulers. I think that's very bogus, and I think we can see it Islamically speaking in the literature which precedes more than 200 years ago. But again, I hear what the Sheikh is saying. There have been with recent Salafi movements the preference, for example, of Arab culture over African culture, or people being docile or not speaking to power, that sort of thing that's there. But
well, it's actually different, and that's what I'm trying to say. You must really look into the details. Once you start reading what actually happened and who is who and who's part of what movement. For example, there's this movement called
let's be honest, Salafi is pretty pro-government.
It's Islafa.
What would you mean
it's very
when you say?
But you see, that's what I'm trying to say. What are you talking about? What region is he talking about?
Let's talk. It's clearly
what rich region?
But talk clearly to the Middle East.
Middle East. Okay, but we talk about West Africa.
Yeah. So when you say it's pro-government,
yeah, it is pro-government.
Elaborate.
For example, it's very beneficial for government, as in advise the people not to speak out against rulers.
Okay, is that by coincidence, or is it something designed?
No, it's just like that. It's just I don't think it's designed like that. I'm not too sure if it was designed like that.
So then,
but it is very beneficial for whichever current government.
This what I'm trying to say. Look, this conversation, wallahi, it's not one and two. Wallahi, it's not black and white. Wallahi,
the reason why is because I know that most times, when we're talking about Salafiyya, we're not talking about Africa. The conversation automatically flips to the Middle East and how it is now.
But who we talk about?
That's the whole aim was about,
right?
Salafiyya in Africa.
Okay. Now let's talk about Salafiyya in West Africa. For example,
are we only giving it to one region, or should we do the whole Africa?
To be honest, I don't think you can isolate it, because what's been said is Salafi has been imported from the Middle East.
You will have to
into Africa.
Because any theology or any idea, when it manifests in a society, it manifests differently due to the elements that are prevalent in a society. For example, if we talk about Salafi in Saudi Arabia, like he was doing, or the Middle East, the Middle East is pretty stable. It's a pretty stable country. The citizens are fine. They're doing fine. There aren't any outside forces influencing directly its citizens.
If you think about the Arab Spring.
No, I'm saying like the Middle East, as in like the Gulf states, right?
Yeah.
If you look at
Would
outside,
you not include Bahrain in that?
Yeah. There's some Iranian influence in there, but I'm saying, generally speaking, like the outside influence aren't as prevalent. Therefore, I agree with him. You may perceive Salafiyya to be pro-government. Let me give you an example in an area in Nigeria, and it's called Zaria. And there's a sheikh who got killed in 2014 by the name of Sheikh Muhammad Awal Albani. Okay? And he is a propagator of Salafiyya in Nigeria. And this man was killed. Why was he killed? Because he was speaking out against fractions of people. He was speaking out against the government, Salafi. He was speaking out against the Shia in the region, and he was speaking out against Boko Haram. Okay, because what was happening? So, just briefly, right? So in Nigeria in the 90s, what happens is towards the beginning of the 90s, a Salafi influence starts to come in. Okay, the reason being was because loads of Nigerian students were graduating from Medina. And naturally they came back and then they start propagating, and Salafiyya was attractive. Now this is what I wanted to say, that's why I agree with Sheikh Danjuma, but I think we have to unpeel another layer here. Why was it attractive? Because the governments were perceived to be inheritance of Western colonial imperial powers. Loads of West Africa was colonized by the French. Nigeria was colonized by the English. So naturally, at one point, when the governments are not providing for the people, that's what I was saying. It depends.
Salafiyya appeared anti-government at the time.
Appeared as revolutionary.
Yes, and it was supporting more of the community.
So that's what I'm trying to say. Each movement may manifest different depending on the situations. And from what I understand, and briefly, I don't want to talk too much, obviously it's a conversation. From what I understand briefly over Salafiyya in West Africa is not something that is necessarily, it's being pushed because loads of the propagators, loads of the speakers have links to Saudi Arabia. And when the government wasn't able to provide basic like madrasa, medication,
the basic
food,
needs of the community.
these organizations were affiliated with the Saudis. We're offering everything else that the government couldn't offer.
But were they doing it for the sake of Allah, or was there an
Well,
agenda behind it?
That's
something I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's something to look at.
So where, sorry, Dawood and Eesa, where my brother Abdi and us lot are coming from. Look, all of us here, we're all of African descent, right?
Yeah.
We're all Sunnis, we're all Muslim, mashallah, yeah? At the same time, yeah, what I'm saying is, and the problem we're having is, what the brother was saying, where certain countries are using Islam against, you know, poor nations, poor Muslim nations, like he's saying with the whole Qatar incident with the kids, where they recruited a bunch of kids to join their army. Within a month or two, these kids all come back in body bags. Why are these kids fighting proxy wars that don't have nothing to do with them?
But is that the case though? Did they go out there to fight proxy war? And if they did, then what did the community...
On the 10 minutes of training, we're going to provide you something.
Right.
So we're going to provide you with training, this, that.
Cool.
All of a sudden...
They never actually went to a war. Most of them got poisoned and died.
So then
anyways, yeah. But there have been other incidences where, for example, a Somali army were trained and were sent to fight the Houthis.
Yeah.
And then in basically in Yemen.
Yeah.
And then you see a lot of the fighters are obviously Sudani as well.
Yeah.
The ones fighting in Yemen.
Yeah.
Most of them not even Saudi anyways. Most of the ground troops anyways.
So do you think the Houthi fight was? Do you think the Houthi fight was? You think that it's a Yemeni fight? You think only Yemeni should have been involved?
No. I don't think that, but we shouldn't be like on the front line. On the front line, dying for other people who clearly don't give a crap about us.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. You see, it's easy to project the image that way.
Look,
that people out in Yemen,
really
that's not the truth, actually. There's lots of different angles.
Then again,
so there are people, actually, but I'm telling you because I personally know people that were in Yemen, and I personally know people that fought in Yemen.
I personally know people that fled Yemen. They're refugees in the north of Somalia right now.
Yeah.
So and they'll tell you a whole different thing.
No, it's not about a whole different thing. It's about I can't negate the experience of the people that have gone to Somalia. Yeah. But what you can't do is negate the experience of the people that fought and died and were killed there, and why they fought and died and killed there. They didn't go there.
No, but I'm saying
some people choose to fight.
No, but
some people are there as mercenaries and are purchased. Right. That's why they're fighting there.
No, but Eesa, what I'm trying to say is...
some people are doing it peaceably.
So I'm saying, some people...
Some people... You're free
what
to
about
do
the non-Arab
innit?
Muslims? Should we
you're free
always
to
get
do
caught up on their sort of...
I'm saying, if
you look at it that way, but we're using our kindness for weakness.
I'm saying that's not how I'm looking at the situation. The situation is, what is the plight at hand? Is it a Dini plight, or is it a plight that's got to do with nationality?
Yeah.
If it's got to do with Deen, I don't give a damn who it is.
Right, we all like that.
I don't give a damn
if it's national, but if people are using the Deen for their own national interests, and
that's
then they're sucking you in,
that's different.
So when can we as non-Arab black Muslims differentiate? When can we tell that apart? Because we get sucked in for their shit.
That's what I'm saying. You're not.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Allah's given us all aql. So you should be able, to look at a situation and say, "Rah, that's got to do with his tribalism. It's got nothing to do with Islam." And then you should be able to say, "Actually, this is a landmark." For example, if someone, was to attack the Haramain, or Aqsa, I don't want to hear it's Palestinians or Saudis or Arabs. That's a Muslim. That's a Muslim thing.
What we're coming from is if there's nations amongst these people that are not doing nothing for them.
Okay, let me say this. Where are you from? Where are you from?
Okay, so let me give you a scenario then. The Haram gets attacked.
Yes.
Ali Saud ran away. The Arabs boycott it. Do we just stand back and say, no, they should have went first?
No, we do our thing.
I'm saying that's not...
No, but Eesa, when are we doing it for it? But I'm trying to say, can you differentiate from Islam or when it's Arab politics?
That's all.
Can we do that as...
That's all at the situation. That's all at the situation.
You can't tell the difference.
But I'm saying it's all to do with situations. If you're... we can't talk hypothetically about this. What is the situation? And then we can say, this is the means of action you need to take. Like I said to you, if it's something that's nationalistic, right? If it's something like the Hashimis, not even the Hashimis, the Qahtanis start fighting the Adnanis, for superiority, that's got nothing to do with me. That's a tribal fight. if Ishaq and Hawi start fighting, that's got nothing to do with me. That's you, man.
Yeah, that's the tribe. We're not saying that.
Yeah.
We're saying where certain people are getting mixed up between whether it's a tribal cousin thing, where they're using less fortunate Muslim countries to carry out dirt for them. Is that wrong? Yes or not? As Muslims, that's all I'm trying to say. That's my preference. That's my sort of thing. I like that. Is that wrong or right? Thank you.
It seems a bit mad when. Okay.
Sorry. That's why the whole premise of the thing is. I want to keep it
okay, yeah, so I'm saying if a man said that the country is using other countries to carry out their dirt, fair enough. The fair play. That's the point. But I'm saying present me what's going on. Like tell me. We can't just assume and like generalize and say. I'll stand here and be real with you. When people shout about Palestine, I don't really have too much of a.
Same here.
Like, I don't really. It doesn't really touch the heartstrings no more.
It used to. That's what. As a Somalian, what I'm trying to say is, look, we had a horrific attack the other day where, even if you see it, I don't see a lot of nations screaming out, "Yo." There's a lot of Muslim nations saying, "Come and sort out this," or even like what happened, like Uncle saying, in Burkina Faso, in parts of Nigeria where Arab countries are stepping in, where there's Muslim. What I'm saying, so as African Muslims, can't we defend for ourselves?
Of course we can.
Can we? That's the question.
That's what we should
do. Are we allowed to? Are we allowed to? That's the point. Are we allowed to?
Who's going to hold our hands back?
I don't think we're
allowed to. Who's going to hold us back?
I think there's some Arab supremacy going on.
Then we're idiots for leaving. Have
Arab supremacy within the black Muslims.
I'm saying then we're idiots.
They won't shed a tear
then we are
for their
idiots.
own brothers and sisters, but they shed this tear for a fair-skinned Muslim.
I said it. You said it. But I said it like 3 times. I said it like 3 times. Then we are idiots. If we're gonna sit there, and cry for people, not cry for ourselves, then we're idiots. We've got no one else to blame. We've got no one else to blame. So we need to look internally, and see that why is it that when my brother next door to me dies, I don't give a damn, but when someone halfway across the world dies, I'm gonna damn, bro. That's something wrong with you, and it's got nothing to do.
So as you said, there's something wrong with you, But the problem is, there's a lot of that same issue is with a lot of black Muslims. They don't see they don't see people who look like them as Muslims. They'll associate Muslims with people who may look Arab or whatever and so on. That's who they associate.
That's not a black Muslim thing.
Subconsciously.
Remember a couple of months ago, me and you and a brother were talking about a certain man won't even say salam alaikum to me, and I was like,
no, it is. It's like
that
in the subconscious.
But I do the same thing. I don't assume that a man with a beard is a Muslim. I don't assume that a man that looks like Arab is a Muslim. I don't even assume that a man Somali is a Muslim.
So it's self-hatred.
Until I see a sign.
It's subconsciously. We've put a hierarchy where we feel compassion towards certain people and less compassion for people.
That's a mass generalization still.
And that's psychologically.
That's a mass generalization. I can't get behind.
What do you think about that though? What do you think about that? Globally, where we empathize for other people's struggles than our own as a ummah, as a black ummah.
It hits us harder.
Let's put it that way.
Personally, I don't think that can be substantiated. I'm not saying there ain't people, but I don't think it's an issue like man's making it out. I think that yes, I'm saying really and truly, it's only people that are really practicing that get their hearts out really like that. People that have got a zeal for Islam are the people that get tugged by the heartstrings. Yeah. Because there's certain slogans that get put on man and you think, oh yeah, my brother over there is dying, whereas those same people, they don't get that same.
In Central Africa, like you know when Central Africa was going through and Mauritania's going through.
Still now, bro.
Like right now, there's brothers locked in cages in Libya that are getting horrendously raped and killed. Yeah, no one. How come that's so? But it's still happening.
I hear people crying about the destabilization in Libya, but they don't talk about the slaves in Libya.
And the slaves, So isn't it up to us to start highlighting our issues?
Of course it is, bro.
And start talking about it. Start
complaining about other, bro. The real talk, we need to stop complaining about them. Because they're gonna do what they're gonna do in it.
Yeah, but they keep sucking us into their thing.
Yeah, but
we do complain them. Well, we get the ball off the and it's like,
I'm saying we're the ones being dunce about it. We're the ones being dunce about it because when the shoes on the other foot, like you said, bruv, they're not out there.
They're not out there numbers.
I don't see Al Jazeera and their thing like reporting on them things there. I don't see that outlets doing that. So I'm saying, fool me once, But fool me twice, bruv. Come on, man.
Now it's been gone 15 years, 40 years. We're tired of it.
We've been stung, bruv. How many times?
I lie.
For man to know.
Yeah, I lie, fam.
And bruv, obviously it's a generalization again. There are beautiful Arab brothers that will get up for man.
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying even in Yemen.
Look, I'm all about fighting for the Ummah, but I'm saying is don't be a pawn.
And I think the black Ummah has been a pawn for years. Yes or no, Eesa?
Yeah, but I'm saying why though? There's something about the Africans. There's something about the Africans, something about the black.
It's subconscious.
It's not subconscious, bruv. It's about us. It's about our psyche.
You've made the hierarchy.
Why though? Why?
Because you've been taught like that.
No, not
you've been raised.
Africa was the center, but Africa was the center of teaching. How do we allow other people to come in and then impose their shit on us?
Someone sold us out. You still sold us out, fam. We sold ourselves out.
So I'm saying it's got to do with us then.
So it's our mentality.
So we need to fix ourselves.
It is us.
I'm saying, listen, bro. We had unis at Timbuktu. Kemet is there. It's ma'aruf for the people, for them to know, bro. We're not stupid people, but our psyche, we've been moving down. And the majority of the stupidity as well, it's got to do with, sorry to say, tribalism.
Yeah, definitely as well. I think tribalism definitely
more so in the east than the west, but it's the west still has their issues with tribalism as well.
No, we've got plenty.
Nigeria's got loads of issues with.
But the difference is though, people have been leveraging tribalism to get us to kill each other or to use us against each other. But then, sadly, they've been doing it for 100 years, and somehow we still haven't learned from it. We're still doing the same mistakes, falling into the same tricks.
That's the thing, bro. Because
going through the same.
The people listen to the Nasiha, bro. Do people listen to the Nasiha? I feel like you'll sit on a hangout and I will tell you, the Arab is better.
It is our fault. Because a lot of these people
you know what I'm saying?
using the same tactics they've been using. And we still haven't learned from it.
You bun it, bro.
If it's deeply inbred. You hear me? Yes, Gabz. If it's deeply
inbred. You bun it, bro. That's some Egypt thing, bro. What?
I'm just saying.
The Arab is better. How? Says who?
I've even heard this in the park where, even in this park right now, where the Quran is written in my language, I know it more, and I'm like, oh, subhanAllah. Even that type of level. Have you ever been to Arab Corner here? You've seen it, Eesa, bro. Me and you've been racially abused, right? In this park. How dare you say certain things? And we're like,
what? You shouldn't even involve yourself in it.
As Muslims as well. So at the same time, it's the same thing as society, bro.
Yeah, but listen, you
should ignore that stuff.
Who was it, bro?
You're going to have ignorant people everywhere, though.
The Mamalik, the Mamluks, they called them. They were slaves, bro. What did they do? They flipped the status quo. Why? Because they had the power and they had the smarts and the know-how, to the point where the slaves end up becoming the leaders and the kings. We need to flip the paradigm, stop being so subservient to other people.
That's what
stop being so subservient, bro.
I've been preaching that for a long time. Fuck
when
being subservient. I'm done with that shit. The old generation shit where yes, fuck all of that, bro.
Part of it is also as well, Akhi, the veneration, and people might not like this, Akhi, the veneration of the scholars, bro. Some people have venerated the scholars so much so, they don't realise, that these people, when a man gives a fatwa based on him living in the desert, that doesn't apply to you, or it can apply to you. But for more intents and purposes, that's not going to apply for you. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like, when the temperature hits like mad cold temperatures at night in the desert, bro, you might be in the jungle, you're not going to feel that, right? There are certain statements that you go back into the books of fiqh and we burn fire on them all day long, bro. Where a man can say to a man, if it's mad, can I get a vex now?
I've been getting vexed all day, so don't worry about it.
They say stuff like, I can marry your black daughter away, right? Because she's from the lowly people. And if I marry her off, you as her guardian don't have any say in the annulment of that marriage. Why? Because you have no sharaf, you don't have no nobility. Why? Because you're black.
I've never heard that. Have someone used that before?
And these are
using it.
Huh?
I've never heard it used before.
Brother, these are things that people have judged in courts with. If that a man's wali can come, for example, if you married an Arab, a Hashimi, let's say, Qurashi Hashimi, and then her uncle found out, she says, what? this brother Somali, like they're not on our level. He can go to the Qadi, or he could go to the Qadi. He probably can still now. He could go to the Qadi and say, and now that marriage, they're not par with each other, and the Qadi would judge with that. Is this, Billahi Alik, this not Islam, bro. It's some bullshit, bro.
Here's what I'm saying.
It's some bullshit, bro.
That's a mental mind thing, isn't it? Do you think so?
And that's what I'm saying. We will say, nah, fear Allah, taqillah, these are the no, I don't give a damn, bro.
They try to control you. Sometimes they'll say,
listen, the thing is, for me, I can compartmentalize, There are people, scholars that have made racist statements. I reject their racist statements and I can take their other stuff. But I'm still going to call them out on the racism, bro. It's a blatant racism.
Do they get a lot of followers and scholars?
I'm talking about in the 4 madhabs. How about that? These are the madhabs that are surviving, that are even in Africa. The Maliki madhab is like one of the main madhabs that pumps this nonsense.
So what should we do then now?
Create awareness of the Maliki madhab.
But as soon as we create awareness, are we takfiris? Are we out of the fold of Islam? That's another thing. Because the minute you even
try, what man says, fam. I don't give a damn, bro. Except I don't want to be in your camp anyway, cuz.
I like to say, you stay over on that side.
That's a problem then, because a lot of people blindly follow these.
A lot of people blindly follow
like
and so on.
You know, it's
but
perpetuating
then
the
you
cycle.
can't even call it out sometimes. They'll try to stop you from calling it out or make 150 excuses.
Right, but now you got YouTube and thing there. We just pump it, bro.
Here's the problem though, when you see something and you speak out against it, there are people who are the same as you, in the same places, will be like making 150 excuses. Because they're
paradigm. Because what you have to understand is
you are the crazy one due to
you are shattering people's paradigms. Like, if you're an Arab, and someone says to you, you're the best. Prophet from your tribe, you're cushy, living in the oil money, all of that. You know, like you feel like you can be the boss and that. And then someone says to you, nah, bro, that's you like you made just your own dream, and now you're living it. Like that's, but it's got nothing to do with this. Like you start to shatter people's paradigms. Like, bro, hold on, so what? I'm not special no more. No,
the same.
I can't boss around the Bengali worker no more. No,
basically equality is oppression. If you're privileged,
bro, because most people are stepping on other people's necks to come up.
That's true that.
And they want to think of like these like say these scholars and Arab ancestors at times as like holy people, and they can't reconcile how a holy man can say something wicked and racist. And so what they have to do is, in order to maintain that paradigm, they have to say, nah, that statement was racist. I've heard man argue, nah, it's not racist. You've taken it out of context.
You hear that? Even
how can you take it out of context? But how can you take it out of context when it says right there?
Ridiculous.
But how can you take it out of context when people are acting on it?
No, but he's so ridiculous. When you see someone act on it, show someone evidence, and then you point out where it's racist, some people see it and say, no, make 100 excuses, and they'll turn a blind eye to it.
And I'm saying this is part of our subservient nature.
How can you address something if you can't even call out for what it is? How can a lot of Muslims better themselves and shun basically the racist behavior if you can't even call it out? Even if you call it out, you'll be called crazy for it, or you come out of Islam, or even worse than that.
What it is we shouldn't depend on people to teach us our religion. That's number one. Don't depend on people to teach us your religion.
That's why I cannot.
But the difference is the status quo. Yeah, you're right. A status quo is great for them. It's great for the people who are on top. The status quo is great.
Yeah, and they set up, and that's what happens when they get to the top. They build infrastructures to keep them there. Yeah, but we got to smarten up and combat it, bro. Like.
Like
Africa had Deen, Akhi.
But I'll be honest with you,
it's had Deen before.
The number one people,
before him, bro.
The number one people. I'll be honest with you.
Muslim.
The number one people who's going to stop you from breaking the status quo are people that look at you. They're the first people who's going to be the first in line to stop you. People who look at you are the first people to put them on a pedestal and try to keep that status quo.
So them Uncle Tariqs.
I'm not gonna lie, do you know what it is?
People are happy cleaning the toilet.
I'm trying to
happy being
you know what it is, actually?
People are happy being house slaves.
Part of it, like okay, when I think of like Salafiyah, generally speaking, when you look at Salafi communities, the propagators, the majority of them are of Afro-Caribbean nature.
Jamaicans, why?
Yeah,
why is it not? Because even like, I think even like
because
the brothers leaders is
resources as well. Brother,
Jamaican.
you can't imagine the resources they have. You can't imagine the resources. You know, the money, it's all about the money.
What it
finance.
is.
You have to go back to finance.
What it is the appeal of a puritanical Islam, and away from like Christianity. A lot of people come in off of their Catholicism. A lot of people come from Christianity. They're thinking, this stuff is all mash up. So they come off of that. And remember as well, Afro-Caribbeans, generally speaking, the culture, most of it's been stolen, and you've had to replace it.
That's right.
So
it's basically like the Hebrew Israelite movement as well.
Yeah. So what it is when they find a movement puritanical and they believe that they're pleasing Allah, who are they learning it from? They're learning it from people that are grounded in knowledge, but are also grounded in their Arabic culture.
Arabic.
Yeah. So they're knowledgeable. So for example, like for me, if I went down the route, Mashahada, what would have happened is I would have went to Medina.
Okay.
And then I would have studied under some scholars in Medina. And inadvertently, whether it's intentional or unintentional, they would have palmed off certain things which are cultural, which are their what they call it, as deen.
Okay.
And I would take it. So to the point where when we first started practicing, we thought that wearing the thobe and that's sunnah. Like the Prophet started saying just like that. This is sunnah. This is you get your ma'jur for it. You get rewarded for wearing the thobe and that. You even to the point, man, put it on you. I felt holy, bro. Jump on the bus and that, and everyone's looking like, who's this weird guy? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting points. I'm getting points. Come to find out, it's not the deal. The Prophet peace be upon him wore the garments of these people.
Of the area at the time.
Yeah.
After,
And not only that, it's antithetical to Islam as well, when you like try to stand out like a sore thumb, like just looking weird. Like there was one brother that used to carry like a Moses stick and like big turban. That thing will go on in Mauritania, but not here.
It's like people feeling they got to put on a costume or act to please
people. Because because it's what's it? Not as above, so below. But what's outside? They're trying to purify the inside by doing the outward action.
The outward actions,
But the outward action, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
There's no link.
It's just you're indoors.
You know what I'm saying?
It's just what's happening inside, isn't it?
Like keep yourself clean. You know what I'm saying? Like obviously we're not saying to man come out in your bra and knickers and everything. That's not what man's saying. But the brothers flocked us in the sense that they should have said to us, look, you don't have to do all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like even in my early Islam as well, like I because of the overzealousness, I burnt a lot of bridges with like family and friends.
Okay.
Because of this thing of because of certain cultures, even like for example, and then people won't agree with me, free mixing, they call free mixing, like interaction with the other sex.
Okay,
So I'm saying, obviously different cultures, they differ in the way they interact.
Okay.
Now, others will not want to be in the same room as their female, whatever, or they don't want them to be in. But as Africans, we're not like that. Like that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We can't be sitting on a man's bed.
All of that.
But that's what I'm saying. So it took me a matter of years to actually go to the someone's budding crows. to go to the books and realize, you know what? You can interact with your family. Like even in to the point where.
So my question would be then, who these teachers and these stuff that you're talking about, and you said that you've come, who are the ones that's pushing that forward? Where's it come from? Who would you say is to not to blame?
Yeah.
You want to say it's like can't be
that's
blamed.
the thing. I don't know if it's fully intentional.
Yeah, that's the thing,
Or part of it's unintentional. Part of it is. I think the failure is on us, to be honest. The failure is on us for us not to be able to sort of decipher between what am I presenting,
from the text.
And to a certain extent as well, we do when we start out for a bit surrender our thinking, our critical thinking sometimes to a person who's teaching us. Because we think, that person knows better. And more time, they do know better. But that person has his own mistakes, his own hang-ups, his own cultural upbringing. There's a whole load of factors in there that affect that person.
From your man say it straight. Man don't listen to BBC. Man don't listen to ITV. Listen. Man don't listen to BBC. Man don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky TV. I just listen to COE. Man don't listen to BBC. Man don't listen to ITV. I don't listen to Sky TV. Man don't listen to COE. Man just listen to COE.
I've seen loads of people from the community follow the party. The moment the pastor says one thing that's slipped up,
crumbles, yeah.
You know what? Because they put this they're forgetting that he's still a man. He's still going to be judged. He's still got to go through these trials and tribulations. You know what I mean? So, with regards to obviously the clothing and all this stuff for the people, if we're still not reading our own text, remember, there's no